something, yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to bring the Finance Committee meeting to order on March 3rd, 2025. It is 6:01 p.m. First on the agenda is budget and capital article recommendations. I hope that you have gone through the omnibus and look at it, and there's not really a lot that I see that except a few items that we've already discussed on the omnibus. Is there anything on that, on the omnibus that anybody would like to revisit?
I just have two questions. Andrea, you had brought forward on the health budget, increasing the stipends or salary. Is that within the budget itself, or is that going to be an item that I don't see it on the warrant for for the town meeting?
Treasurer collector and the town clerk stipends?
No, I thought you had brought forward another board was seeking increases in their stipends, similar to what the planning board was last year. I thought it was
The Board of Health.
Board of Health.
Board of Health.
Bring it up
Yeah.
It's already in there. It's at your recommendation. They put it in their budget they didn't do a separate article.
Okay, I just want to ask. And the second thing I want to ask you is the issue of the potential of a new animal control facility. We are members of that for services. Would that be something that we would have to be concerned about as a capital, similar to like the tech school, where communities who are involved in would have to pitch in for the cost of the facility, or is it completely not a problem?
I've not heard about the construction of a new facility, and I do have to say that the jump for the regional animal control shelter from 1,000 to 3,000 has kind of been rescinded. I think that the sheriff got a lot of flack for that. So that's going to go down again. So I think people said it was too big a jump in 1 year. So I may modify that. She was calling everybody. She left a message for me. I was in the building. Before I left last week, and I didn't get her.
I was just concerned if that's something we have to look, for the next fiscal year, if they were going to introduce that to us.
Because we've been members for a long time now. Even prior to my time there, you were members of the regional shelter. So it's been like 10 years, and they never had an increase in 10 years. So the sheriff's department has been essentially subsidizing the cost of running that shelter. And it went from like one staff person, which was Leslie Colucci, who's the director of that, to multiple staff people because many, many towns have joined. Now it has kept the assessment of the animal control officer very flat because it keeps spreading among other towns. The problem is the facility was an old police shed that they rehabbed using, labor from the correctional facility and the sheriff's office. But it's 10 years on beyond that. So they've had to do a lot of improvements to the shelter itself to keep it up to date, for it to handle the amount of dogs. And they've really essentially been absorbing that themselves. The sheriff's department has a budget. They've always met what was originally, I think the agreement was supposed to be 50% them, 50% the member towns. But they never increased the amount of money that the towns were putting in towards the costs of operating the shelter until the request for this year. And I think they got a little flack in going from 1,000 to 3,000. So I think that's going back down. I don't have the exact number yet, but you have 3,000 in your budget. So all it will do is go down. And it could be 1,000 or 1,500. They might cut that. So that's what I know. I do not know if they're building a new shelter. That has not been conveyed to me. That would be a different thing. And there's,
Well,
as
this
I
is
know,
something that may be coming down the road facing the town.
in the agreement that we've signed with the sheriff's office, that it talks about building a new shelter and whether that would be on the towns. But I can certainly ask B. B is the town's representative to the animal control, sheriff's animal control, the animal control board. And I think she's actually the chair. So I'm sure she would have mentioned it if something like that was coming down the line. At this time, I have not heard they're looking to build a new shelter. If they are, then it must be contained within their budget.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions on the DPW and changing it, the status of one of the members to a foreman? Thank you. Any questions on that?
No.
Any questions on, we didn't really discuss it, but the not custodian, but the, I guess, maintenance man,
Maintenance person.
maintenance for the town buildings is still in the budget, correct?
Yes.
We did,
currently in the budget.
okay. Okay. Anybody have any questions on those two positions?
No.
One's just an upgrade and one's
One's an
addition.
upgrade and one
One's
is,
an
it was a
addition.
position that was there.
Right,
Go-
you have one position.
And it was sitting in highway. We're moving it back and we're adding a position. So you can look at it either way. There's a new position and one position is moving, but there is an increase to go one person to a foreman as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it increases the, yeah.
Or the second highway position. So it's not really two new positions, it's one new position and an increase for a foreman in the highway department.
And you factored in the increases.
Health insurance and pensions for, the whatever people.
For one new employee.
Okay.
Any other questions? I have a question on the omnibus. Are we going to separate, because we did last year, separate out the schools from the town budget?
It is. If you look at the spreadsheet I'm sending you at the bottom, they have the line item by account and it shows all of the accounts. But if you
Okay, I was
go,
looking
the
at the-
omnibus is separate, then there's the EMS enterprise, then there's the school budget, then there's the sewer enterprise. So yes, it will be the article after the omnibus again.
Well, since you brought it up, are we going to recommend or not recommend the education budget?
The school budget, right now, as far as our concern in town of Northfield, it's actually gone down. It's not as high as it could be. I think, Andrea, what does it go up, Brown? How much, 20-something thousand?
$2,576 or 0.5%.
So,
For Pioneer Valley, you got to remember that the Franklin County Tech went up 20.6% or 185. So your school budget is still going up $167,752 or 3% overall. Because tech is going up so high because enough more students went there.
The RS K through 12 district is only going up like 22,000. The reason that the tech school is going up, yes,
Right.
Yeah.
yes. We've gone from 40 students at the tech school to 50 students, and it's approximately $17,000 per student. So if you look at that, that is directly related to the increase in cost for the tech school.
Well, my concern is not so much the percentage increase in the budget. My only concern is that the fact it never came before us.
Can we stay in mute or, vote whatever and not take a position because of that?
We could basically, I wouldn't say not recommend, but
Just stay in mute or not 0-0 and
trying
not
to think of
for,
technical term as far as
Yeah.
that, we're not,
for it, we're not against it.
we have no stand.
No stand?
I think when you vote it, you vote no position.
Okay,
Okay.
But if we do no position, we just should say at least a statement.
Statement for the reason why,
Right,
whichever
yeah.
status.
Oh, yeah.
If people are gonna say no position.
Difficult is it either approve it or disapprove it, but we have to give the reasoning
Yeah, the
why,
message, yeah.
so that the people were transparent
Yeah.
with them for the reason why.
Yeah.
okay. Your opinion, all our opinion, I want to have everybody have a chance to speak out on this, because we have sat in, some of us, to the budget hearings and that, and I have requested to have them come to see us more than once. I gave them an opportunity a couple of times to express that, we would like to see them as a, just respect for the people who are paying their wages.
The school's budget is going up a couple $100,000. It's just not falling on Northfield this year. So it's not that the school budget is not going up. The school budget is going up, but Northfield's assessment due to the formula is not taking the lion's share of that increase.
Yeah, I think
The
it's
school
the
budget's going
budget for.
Bernardston gets the
Bernardston,
largest
they're going up,
increase.
but it's around 2.5%, I think, of the increase
Yeah.
overall from last year to the whole budget. But our share is not going up as much because of,
Decline in enrollment.
probably, yeah. So,
Their tax base faster than Northfield, so they actually, under the formula, get hit with a larger share of the assessment.
so we're looking at 3 options. One to approve, one to not, and one to
The no position.
no position with a statement.
I think we should go with a no position with a statement.
Yeah.
That way we give a little bit of background, a little bit of history, and when it goes to vote, the town is actually voting what they want rather than what we say is good or bad. That way they actually have a real informed
Yeah.
position.
Well, the person that would probably be the rationale. So, I will entertain a motion on the school, the PVRS budget.
I, Bernie Parada, make a motion that we take no position on the school budget, which is a majority of the town's budget, for the simple reason is that the schools have not come forward before us to present their budget whatsoever, even though they have been invited to come before us, they have chosen not to.
I get why second.
Any more discussion?
Clarify one thing. Are you taking no position on the entire school article or just the PVRS budget?
Just the K through 12 budget, PVRS.
I just want to make sure, because I'll write the article with your recommendation.
Okay.
Separately decide what you want to do for the for the tech school, or are you going to do it all in one article? Just want to make sure I get it right.
And is it separated in, on the article, PVRS and tech school?
But I could pick two votes. In the, just, in the written, it's up to you how you want to do it. It'll be one article, but I can put both of your votes.
Okay.
No,
Is capital part of the, that school budget? Is it 3 lines or is it 2 lines?
The school capital currently, there's a $25,000 that you have put in there consistently, and that is what we work on for projects with the school that are not delineated. Those happen over the course of the year. This year, I have shifted the carpeting into that because they wanted an additional.
That's right.
They wanted an additional 50,000 to do awning and the cameras, and those are a separate article.
Okay.
Well, is that for elementary school, or is that for Pioneer, or is that for, okay, just the elementary school, right?
Elementary school maintenance is in there for 25,000, and then then the PVRS assessment is in there separately, even though they're in the same article. They
So
will
it
be
is separate.
listed. They're listed so you can see them.
Well, the question I think that we're asking is, it is separate from their budget. It's a capital article, separate from their budget. Is that correct?
There's two things going on. There's an NES capital $25,000 that has been in the budget, was in the budget last year. And as they do things, they contact me and we either pay the bill or they reimburse it. But that's 25,000 for NES. That's the town's commitment to the building they own. So if something were to come up to the building, have to replace a window because the town owns that building. And then there's their assessment for the whole district, which they give you. Then there's an article later in the warrant that will include their request for $50,000, for $3,000 for cameras, and $47,000 for the awning. So that they are doing both of those at NES, but sometimes that separate article has included things for the high school. That is a separate request from the district. It could be cameras at the high school. That would be your share of it. Bernardston would have their share of it.
Oh.
This year, it happens to just be all NES. But it
As far
doesn't.
as we know, that in the PVRS budget, there is
The PVRS assessment.
assessment.
Part you're talking
Your
about.
assessment. There are no capital projects in the assessment from them.
Not that they've defined as capital.
Okay.
No, I mean, if
All right.
they are gonna do something, and, maybe they put some small things in their budget that they do normally, but actually no large capital projects. Those, if they have to be split amongst the district, go to each town. And right now, in a separate article.
Okay, but
in
in
we
the
the have
past,
traditionally
if
if
they've
they've
had
had
a capital project, has that been a separate article?
Yes.
Okay.
Except for the small bit of money you put in your regular NES, in your regular article for the schools. There's always been a capital line. If you look back at last year's, you'll see there was $25,000 in there for general capital. That's upkeep maintenance on the capital asset itself as a school that the town owns. But a separate project that they've delineated, which they sent the sheets for, I think you got it when it was capital was due. There's an awning request, there's a camera request. Those are the article that they're asking for capital work. Specifically, those two things, and it's a separate article.
And they're specifically for our school, right?
This year they are, but the capital article can sometimes include work on the high school. It just doesn't this year. You've done.
We're gonna get into that a little bit later, because you'll see how this kind of fits together a little bit later. So we still have not voted. So all those in favor of the,
Motion
The-
to take no position.
Yeah, we take no position on the PVRS. We have to specify that clearly.
Yeah.
It's not the tech school, it's the PVRS budget,
Okay.
operational budget.
and it's been seconded?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay, all those in favor or not, signify by saying yes or no and your name.
I, Bernie Parada, vote yes.
Gail Weiss, yes?
Dan Campbell, yes?
Linda McCarthy, yes?
Robin Vandermatt, yes.
Okay, and since we're on it, as far as the tech school, I know that in the future, they're gonna be looking to do some capital projects, but right now, the budget that they have presented us is basically based on population that's going there. And as was explained, that is something that's dictated by the state based on what the town can afford to pay. With that, I would entertain a motion to, it's not accept, what am I trying to think?
Approve?
Recommend?
Recommend?
Recommend.
Recommend, thank you very much. To recommend the tech school
Operational budget, yeah. Oh, give anybody a shot first, instead of me hawking it all.
I can't.
I can't, do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay, I, Gail Weiss, make a motion to accept the Franklin County Technical School budget for FY '26.
Do I have a second?
I, Bernie Parada, second that motion.
Any discussion? Again, all those in favor or not signify by saying yes or no.
I, Bernie Parada, yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Dan Campbell, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes.
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
So unanimous. Moving on to the omnibus town budget. And again, we've discussed this quite a bit. We've gone over it. A lot of it has to do with salaries and things beyond the control of the town. I don't see any line item that has gone up too drastically. But that's my opinion. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to add?
If they went up, it was usually something uncontrollable, like health insurance, so.
Yep.
Which went up 18%.
Yeah.
So that's a thing we have to explain to the residents.
it's
that
uncontrollable,
certain areas are not controlled by, the community.
Yeah.
They have to, unfortunately, we have employees, and we have to provide health insurance. So
Yeah.
not much of a choice.
Okay,
Same with county retirement, that went up 10.
If you looked at the draft I sent you, the new one, if you look at the very top in the section 122, which is the select board office, the select board asked me to add the select board as part of their community planning coordinator. There's no money in it. We've never paid any money in it. You'll see 0, 0, 0, 0 all the way across. This is
Yeah.
the select board's recommendation, and they're so far, I mean, they're going to vote on the job description tomorrow, to modify the job description of the grant position that we held, the grant and economic development position, slightly, a little less on grants, still economic development, to do more community planning and to work a little bit more on planning. We have a lot of bylaws that need to be done to give a little bit of support to the planning board to get through some of their bylaw work, which is fairly economic and community development based. It is still covered by ARPA for the entirety of next year. And then going into 2027, it will be covered with some additional funding from ARPA. But the funding from ARPA will run out in 2027. So at that time, this position would come online as a town position and have some funding in it. I don't know the number yet. We will know when we get closer as to how much is left to do that with. But I wanted to point that out so there was no surprises. If you don't support doing that, this is your time to speak up. And certainly speak up and ask questions of the select board at the meeting. I'm hoping we'll mention a little bit later when you hand your recommendations off to them as in a joint meeting. But I didn't want you to miss that is a new line item, and they wanted to make it transparent that they wanted to create this job beyond ARPA funding. It'll be, 2 years before you see that funding come in, or some of it, but I didn't want anyone to miss it.
no, we went over it last week also, so we're very aware of what's going on. So if there's nothing that stands out with the budget, I'm looking for our vote to recommend the omnibus as stated.
I, Bernie Parada, make a motion that the Finance Committee approve the omnibus budget as written.
I, Gail Weiss, second.
Any discussion? Again, all those in favor or not signify by saying yes or no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes.
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
Moving on to the capital articles. I had a discussion with the town clerk, and she's willing to forego or to drop the sign. It's a $10,000 reduction. However, it was going to be coming out of free cash. So that leaves us with $10,000 of free cash to be able to use elsewhere. But I don't know if there's anything that we're looking at that is at that level where we would,
I could recommend that we go back to 230 for the,
Bathrooms, which was more in line with the estimate. It's a couple $1,000s. It was
Okay.
230 originally.
the request, and I dropped it to 228 to keep it under the free cash
so we
threshold.
got, that leaves us $8,000, right?
Well, less than that because we
No.
had, yeah,
Yeah.
it's less than that. It leaves us 5 or something. Doesn't it leave us with a 5?
Oh, it's three.
Go to the bottom and see.
2,000, yeah. So that leaves us with
With a,
8,000.
8,000, yeah.
Did I say that? Okay. All right.
you were right.
So,
What was the
Oh, I see.
reason to ask her to
The re-
drop that? Because I don't
Well,
recall we talking about.
the reason that she wanted it is we're trying to get as much information out to people as we possibly can. And we have the town website, we go out there, we put things in the paper. People don't get the paper anymore. The website, not a lot of people are looking at the website. We wanted something physical to be able to, people driving through. We ran into a very good question as to if we put it, would it impede with the traffic flow and, being an intersection there. So through long discussion, we thought that and again, that we're looking at unknown times as far as what's happening, and we're trying to see if we could reduce something. It's a small amount, obviously, but it's something that we looked at as a little bit of fluff at the moment because of what we're thinking of another plan that the town clerk has in their budget to be able to work in the budget is to put a bulletin board in a back hall which is open 24/7. That would be similar to our website, but it would have information on there. Kind of maybe a touch screen where you touch on Monday and it says Finance Committee at this time, or if there is something, a notice to be there, because a lot of the senior citizens come in there and they'll see it. So she's going to start with that. So with that, having that as a backup, we thought that would be okay, because she could work within her budget to be able to do that.
See, I don't think that, personally, I would advocate for the sign, because I know in several of the meetings over X number of years, it's always come up that people don't know, and they, if they don't get on the website, or if they don't happen to go in the back of the hall, or they don't, it would be right there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just a firm believer in information right there where everyone can see it, and you don't have to go looking for it.
Okay.
And I think people miss things because they don't know.
And I'm trying to keep a little bit out of the conversation, because years ago I tried to do this, so I'm going to leave it up to
Yeah.
the members here to kind of chime in and see what their feeling is.
I like the idea of the sign. I thought it would be a great asset. I mean, it beats renting a thing down by the intersection and occupying that guy's property just to flash when the meetings
He
are.
would have been in here tonight.
Yeah.
It's his property.
Oh, it's his property?
Yeah, well, it's a state property
Mitch's.
as far as that, but it's, it is kind of close to his property, so.
Yeah.
I'll make a suggestion that I agree with the sign, the need for it, but I think there might be in the future a better location. They're looking potentially of building a new fire station right on the road. There is a long straightaway. There's going to be no pedestrian crossings, as far as I know, going to be in that area. It's also a good line of sight. I know that's could be 2, 3, 4 years down the road,
Right.
but it might be. Again, I'm for the sign, but it might be a better location, because Greenfield Fire Department has a sign right in front of their station. Is it the greatest location? But they made use of it because it is on a busy street. It's visible. People can get information. I'm just saying that might be something that we could hold off, if we, be patient for a couple of years. But if we build a new facility, there's plenty of setback and place to put a sign that wouldn't impact. I mean, it'd be far less impactful on safety than putting it here in front of Town Hall.
Agreed.
Are you sending out postcards this year to let people know that town meeting's this date? Here's where it is on the website. If you want a warrant and can't get it on the web, come into town hall and pick up a warrant.
every home will be.
Mailed a sheet like last year. It was a one-pager that was folded
Which
and
kind of brings
mailed.
up.
That will have a breakdown of kind of the articles and budget and with the town meeting information. Yes, we put factored into the budget this year to, yes, mail to every home.
There might be another location too. There's some thought that talking to the chief, they're looking at where you come in from 5 and 10 and 63 to put some type of rotary there. Now, you could end up putting a sign there. So it may be that we not just postpone this for a few years. Your suggestion is great. And again, if we decide that this is what we're going to do, then there's an $8,000 that we've got to figure out where you want to put it, and it is free cash. We could put it back in there, let it roll over till next year, and if that's the case, we would have some money in there to revisit the sign issue. So it was just something.
Certified before fall, you could revisit it as early as fall.
If Amanda has more time to work on it as a project. Because if we're gonna stick with a fall town meeting in November, you know, I can work with Amanda to see if we can work through some of it. There is some issues around it being in the mass right of way. We do want to go out when we can get out there. It's a little snowy and do some measuring on visibility and what that would mean and where we'd want to place the sign and which direction would it go? Is it two direction? I think we want to spend a little more time with it. We don't want it to seem like to people like it's rushed and not have a good idea and a much more firm pricing. So we may be able to work on it this summer with the idea being that we could even bring it back as early as fall if possible.
Well, then it's not to abandon it, but to postpone it as far as doing that. I would leave it up to the committee to think if that's a good idea, to postpone it, to get more information and to possibly come back in our fall town meeting, so.
Yeah, postponement is good, as long as we don't just
No,
drop it entirely.
no, she's
No,
not gonna
I-
drop it as
That's
as
good.
far as that.
I agree,
And
postponement is a good
As
idea.
long as I'm around, it's not gonna get dropped either, because I think we need to get as much information out to people as we possibly can.
Yep.
So I will entertain a motion to accept the articles, but to delete for now the town hall sign.
I get,
What are you doing about the grader?
The grader's gone. We already taken
Yeah.
it off. We talked about that last week, and and
We're on the same page.
and I did talk to the superintendent, and he was okay with that for the time being. He can fix it, and then we'll look at it at a future date. But it's something that's used 1 or 2 months a year, and you're talking $150,000 is a lot for 2 months. As
How
far as
often does that get repaired? It sounds like he repairs it.
When I talked to him, he was okay with that as long as we got the truck. So, you know, he said, one, if I'm gonna not get something, I would agree not to have the grader. And it was already taken off the list from last week, so it's already factored into the budget as we speak, I believe. The only other thing I can think of as far as doing that is if you wanted to put the $8,000 into the what is it?
the bathrooms?
Not the bathroom. Well, we did. We're going to put a couple grand in
Right.
Yeah, 2,000 to the bathrooms.
there. But back into the.
bathroom.
Oh, free cash?
We could do that.
To the shed for the wreck?
We could do that.
Oh, I don't know.
No, I was thinking as far as legal because.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Because
because
right
that's
now,
gonna be unknown.
the
Yeah.
lawsuit has hit.
Yeah.
They are, going through it, and they also are asking for legal fees if they win
And costs.
and costs.
Yeah.
So we've put aside, or we're not put aside yet, but we're looking for $50,000. There's two options. There's not two options. There's two things that are coming down. One is the planning board, and the other one is
Concom.
conservation committee that has some issues too.
Yeah.
So we could up that by the $8,000. The trouble with that is it's coming out of free cash. I don't really want to use free cash
No.
to do that. I want to unfortunately keep it as to raise it by taxation, because people have to understand what the consequences are
I agree,
when
absolutely.
you don't follow the guidelines set forth by the town.
You can find an article from two different funding sources, you could put an additional.
5 in from
I mean,
free
just
cash.
seeing those bills I do in Shutesbury legal with their lawsuit. I mean, they're paying Boston attorneys over $600 an hour.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're paying our attorneys, but it's not $600 now.
Huh?
Our
No,
attorney
so-
is not $600 an hour.
Yeah, but
we would be
if you
paying
need a
their
specialty
attorneys.
attorney,
We'd be paying
Yeah,
their
because
attorneys.
KP law is very reasonable. But if you need a specialty attorney and it has to come from Boston, that's what you're gonna pay.
That appellate tax
We
court,
pay a specialty attorney,
Yeah.
and that one's a pricey one.
Maybe you didn't understand, because we would be paying their fees.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah,
at
that too.
$600 an hour, that could be a possibility.
But I mean, that's
So-
what Shutesbury is paying for expertise.
Yeah, and we do that too, so.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, it should come from taxation because these boards made an official determination for the town of Northfield. And so their action must be held accountable to the taxpayers.
Yep.
Okay, but that gets us back to the $8,000. Do you want to just hold off on that?
it'll get recertified in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's just leave it.
And given what the federal government is doing and such, we may find that we may need it because something may have gotten pushed back, especially with the school.
I would hold on to it.
Yeah.
That's common sense, just hold
Yeah.
on to it.
all right. So, I have to have some motion to, or do we just remove it, Andrea?
Yeah, if you're fine, I'll just leave the amendments as they are, which is essentially the town hall sign is withdrawn, and we'll put 2,000 back in the bathrooms, and you guys can just vote the whole thing, and I will make all the adjustments.
Okay, so that leaves us with taking the rest of the capital projects and recommending, and I will entertain a motion for that.
I make a motion to vote the capital articles out of free cash, with the exception of the town hall sign and adding 2,000 to the bathroom, the town hall bathrooms.
You want to go like that, or do you want to do the whole,
Oh, the whole amount?
the whole thing? The whole, money articles only.
Oh, money articles?
Money articles that pertain to the town of Northfield. We wouldn't be doing the CPAs.
Oh, yeah, I'm just doing these
Yes.
capital articles.
Right now, you're just talking about the free cash.
The free
When you
cash.
start-
Cash
articles, that's all I'm talking
Okay.
Except whatever
Okay.
out of free cash.
Okay.
With the exception of the town hall sign and adding $2,000 to the town hall bathrooms.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion. Bernie Parada.
Any discussion? Again, all those in favor signify by saying yes or no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes.
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
So that brings us to, go ahead.
You could go back and vote.
The articles, the special articles for the EMS, no, that's part of the budget, I'm sorry, for the legal expenses that will be out of raise and appropriate. Because that's not in free cash, so, and the,
And
so that's a
it-
separate article, so I would put that, because we didn't do it as free cash.
So if we go down the list, as far as, we've already discussed the school. Why don't we just go to the ambulance? Or not the ambulance, I'm sorry, the EMS budget, our assessment.
Outside of their revolving.
Yeah, our assessment.
You have to vote all the revolving accounts as well, whether you support those
Yeah.
two.
So we'll go right down the raising it
Okay.
by taxation. So the next thing down here would be the EMS capital request, which would be our cost.
For the EMS, actual budget request.
Yes. Yes. At $100,778.
The assessment.
The assessment.
That's the
Yeah.
assessment.
Yeah, the assessment.
I, Bernie Parada, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do you want us to do that or the whole, we're doing the assessment first? Yeah.
Go down those as well, that would be good.
Then therefore, I, Bernie Parada, make a motion to, that we recommend the assessment for the EMS budget in the amount of $102,000 and 778, 102,778.
Do I have a second?
I go, I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes. Those opposed, no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes.
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
So moved. Moving on, we're gonna go right down the list here, and the next one would be $50,000 for anticipated legal fees. A motion.
I, Robin Vandermeer, make a motion for the Finance Committee to recommend the $50,000 raised by taxation for additional anticipated legal expenses.
Do I have a second?
I go, I second.
Any discussion? All those who favor it say yes, those opposed, no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes.
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
Moving down, $89,000 interest for ATB case settlement.
Doesn't that just get taken
That's not
from
gonna
your?
show on the warrant.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's just, that comes off the
That's not gonna be on the
recap.
warrant? Okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
That will
Okay,
be on the recap.
Right,
all right.
yeah.
All right, moving over. We did free cash. We'll go back to $50,000 for NES capital projects.
Didn't we just vote this?
50,000. Did I say 150,000? Is it
No, we just voted. the
We
whole-
voted for all the articles under free
Okay.
cash.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, we
sorry.
gotta do the enterprise fund.
Yeah,
We have to do
Enterprise fund,
enterprise
okay,
funds.
enterprise fund
Okay.
4, yes. Let me get, sewer enterprise fund.
I, Bernie Parada, make a motion that we recommend the sewer enterprise fund for, I believe that's the,
No, it's
for the
again-
enterprise fund of $597, $597,612.
Do I have a second?
I just had a quick question before I
ahead.
second. The culvert, I noticed it's not at the, is that kind of separate? Because the total doesn't equal the sum. Shouldn't it
That-
be 607, 612?
It's coming out, while we're doing their.
Oh, we're just doing
yeah,
the, okay.
And then it's still coming out of their fund.
Right,
a
but it's
different-
out of their,
Correct.
yeah, their over, or whatever, the surplus. Okay, never mind, I'm sorry. I second what Bernie just said. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Are you, okay, any more discussion? Again, all those in favor say yes, all those opposed, no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes.
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
Okay, moving on, sewer enterprise fund culvert for $20,000. Do I have a motion?
I, Robin Vandermeer, make a motion for the Finance Committee to recommend the $20,000 out of the enterprise sewer for the culvert.
Do I have a second?
I second that motion, Bernie Parada.
Any discussions?
Do we need to designate that's coming from surplus funds, or does it matter?
It's coming from their enterprise
Right,
surplus funds?
Yeah. Do we need to,
Yes, that's the enterprise.
Enterprise fund.
Yeah, but
Operate.
it's from their certified
is
surplus.
it part of their regular enterprise?
That's part of the regular enterprise.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, the
I-
Certified will be the 500.
500 capital for the ambulance that's coming next.
Oh, okay,
This
This is out of the operating.
being enterprise fund.
okay.
Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes or no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes.
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
Moving on to ambulance, I'm sorry, EMS budget. And that's coming out of their enterprise.
$500,000 is the end.
Yes, but the first one is their operating budget. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
$1,032,967. Again, it's coming out of their enterprise fund, their funds.
I, Bernie Parada, make a motion to recommend the amount Dan Campbell just mentioned to be used for their operational budget coming out of their enterprise fund for EMS.
Do I have a second?
I, Gail Weiss, second.
Any discussion? Again, this is coming out of their own funds that they have accumulated themselves. All those in favor signify by saying yes or no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes.
Robin Vandermatt, yes.
Next, EMS capital request, ambulance, $500,000. Again, this is coming out of their enterprise fund.
I, Robin Vandermatt, make a motion for the Finance Committee to recommend the $500,000 capital request for the ambulance coming out of the Enterprise EMS operating funds.
Do I have a second?
I, Bernie Parada, second that motion.
Any discussion?
Is this coming from their surplus funds? They probably don't make enough revenue.
This is from their certified.
Okay, certified.
Current certified,
I call
yes,
funds, yeah.
I know what you mean. They're
Again-
free cash, so to speak.
And again, this is the start. It takes several years to get an ambulance. You probably won't see the ambulance for quite a while. But I know that one of their ambulances went down. We had to repair it. The oldest one is basically is not in. I think it is in service, but it's
It's
not
in service,
full
but it is paramedic
Yeah,
level, I believe,
yeah.
and it's parked in Irving.
Irving at the moment.
Yeah, because we don't have facilities for
No.
it.
Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes. Those opposed, no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes.
Robin Vandermatt, yes.
And I believe that takes care of the budget and capital article recommendations. Next on the agenda are the approval of,
We're not doing CPA today? The CPA articles at the end here?
oh, I'm sorry.
Articles that I don't know if you weigh in on.
We don't have control, but if we want to recommend, I'm sure that that wouldn't be a problem. So if you wanted to do the CPA annual funds for $28,000, that's was raised by taxation at 5%?
No, it's one,
Point.
1.5.
1.5%. And that's usually, that's divided into different areas as far as the CPA. They have several different areas where they split it up in order to do that. Some of this is done for, what are the five?
Oh, gosh.
I know it's historic preservation.
What is administration?
Yeah.
Historic preservation,
Conservation or
Conservation.
recreation.
yeah.
Right, you have the
Senior.
annual funds at
See-
28.
To put in various accounts that they break them out in. Then you have, the 14 is for Historical Society heat pumps. The 3735 is for the Hobo Falls Conservation Area. It's to do the survey and legal work to start. So that's going to be, I think, donated to the town, but they have to do the work. And then the other one of 2,500 is for the cemetery repairs.
You want to just take them as a whole? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to take all CPA articles.
Gail Weiss, make a motion to accept the sum of $48,235 for the CPA versus not versus, but includes the regular set-asides as well as the 3 articles of Historical Society heat pumps, Hobo Falls Conservation, and Center Cemetery repairs.
I, Bernie Parada, second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes. Those opposed, no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes.
Robin Vandermatt, yes.
Now we can put this aside.
Yeah.
The other question I have is, do you want to?
As a committee, take a position on the acceptance of the HERO Act. It does technically have financial implications because those would be abatements if someone applies. Then there's the senior tax assistance bill that people could do a work off to lower their taxes. Again, it will affect the as an, you know, the overlay account. And there's the
Background.
short-term rental tax, and then there's the, you know, that one you maybe you don't, I don't know. I'm just trying to look at what you guys think financially that doesn't have necessarily any taxation or free cash associated, but is sort of related to your position as,
So the
um,
first one would be short-term rental tax.
Bernie Parada, make a motion that the Finance Committee recommend the article of the short-term rental tax.
I go, I second.
Any discussion? What is it? What's the percentage? What would that, what would the,
that's up to you guys. Recommendation, it can legally be up to 6%, but you don't have to do 6%. So that's something you might want to,
discuss right now?
sure, make a recommendation. We
Yeah.
can put in whatever amount in the article, the wording of the article that you recommend. It probably could be amended on town floor as long as it doesn't go higher. But it could go lower on town meeting floor, so.
Andrea, what is the current?
Percentage for the meals tax that's here in town.
Meals tax by law is the additional 0.75. So you 6.25. And then you could levy the additional 0.75%. That was all the law allowed.
Yeah, so that makes it a 7% tax total.
Total, yes.
Yeah.
I think maybe a similar, well, the fact that there isn't a sales tax obviously on the short-term rentals, so we're gonna have to come up with a different.
I wouldn't,
I think the max you can do is 6%, but
I wouldn't
but you can do
want
less.
to max out.
No, no,
But I would say more possibly in the middle would be something
4 or
that would be,
5%?
that would be 3% if we're looking
3%,
at
okay.
the middle as far as that.
I'm fine with that. We're looking at potentially as a revenue raiser the campgrounds if they come
Yeah.
into
You
operation
have
this year.
campgrounds, you have, there's other things that are out there that, you know, may be coming through as far as doing that. And it's a user fee. It is
Yeah.
not the taxpayers of the town, they're not paying it. The owners of the property are not paying it. What it also does is it gives it maybe a little bit more control over the Airbnbs that are out there that are just doing their own thing. Now they would be, you know, maybe look at it a little bit closer so that they aren't just under the radar. So I would say that the Airbnbs, not the Airbnb, but the bed and breakfast people would love to see that because they're regulated like crazy. And
Well, we only have what, I think 2 B&Bs, Airbnbs in this town, or B&Bs.
we have at least one as far
We
as
have
doing that
one, we
anymore.
used to have one in West Northfield, and
Yeah.
you had the one here on Main Street here.
Yeah.
Rental ones change over time. Sometimes you have one, sometimes you have two. It depends on when they're putting them on, you know, they can rent them at their leisure. I mean, you have a bed and breakfast, that's their business. I think somebody mentioned 5%. My recommendation would be to start a little higher, knowing that it can be amended down on town meeting floor if people want to do that, but it can't be recommended up. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you
Yeah,
start
yeah.
with like 5 and
Well,
people
maybe
kind
not
of
unless we do it in another year.
start at 3, you might end up even lower. I don't know, just a thought.
That's something we can revisit before we do this. I mean, we can recommend the amount,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but can we think about that? Okay. So we did have a,
I don't think I have to put the percent, but I'll check. I don't have the percent in there. So you could just recommend the article right now, and then you guys can talk about what percent you want to recommend on tell me. I'll check that, but I'm pretty sure that that was under discussion the last time. The percentage was under discussion. So if you start with just recommending that you do this, and I think I have to look at the article last time, but I think it was like up to 6%. I think you can determine that on town meeting floor then in discussion.
well, we have it right now that we're, recommend this as far as that. We haven't put a percentage on it at this point. If your feeling is that it's going to be amended on the floor down, I would then say we'll start at 4.
Or when it's motioned, you could recommend a number at that time, if you guys discuss it.
Okay.
I do see one on Airbnb.
What are you checking some others?
I saw one on Airbnb. Let's see.
Well,
Yeah.
let's take one thing at a time. So,
Yeah.
we have already been,
Why don't we just recommend
Send
the
it.
article itself, but
Yeah.
not come up with a percentage and leave that up to a future.
Yeah, because I'm
Meeting.
more than happy to.
Yeah.
now, when would you have to have that percentage though, that we would have to, so you can put it on the warrant?
The motion warrant, probably a week or two, but 2 weeks before town meeting.
Okay.
So you've got some time to, before town
Yeah.
meeting, when you're probably gonna meet again and talk about things to make a recommendation. But the
So
motion can even say up to 6%, and then you guys can even change that motion on town meeting floor. It just can't go over it.
Okay. So we do have on the floor already, we have a recommendation to approve this. It's been seconded. We've had discussion. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying yes. Those opposed, no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes?
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
And we will revisit this as, looking at a percentage. We want to do a little bit more
Yeah,
research.
Yeah, we'll see what
And
average
see
communities
what
are charging
other communities-
surrounding us, you know?
Yes,
Yeah, I wouldn't know, that matter, I mean,
rather than jumping into it.
at least can tell you how many are here,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the other one that you wanted us to chime
I
in
might be
on?
able to look on the website, DLS website.
Recommendation or leave no vote on the hero acceptance or the senior tax assistance bill. They're the only ones that really have any implication on actual town finances. They're not gonna be huge. So it's really up to you whether you take a position or no position, or vote or no vote.
Okay, and it was either, what, 5 cent or what is it? It is a dollar amount, wasn't it?
The Hero Act they both have the senior tax acceptance that they're asking for is only a matter of total of the year of like 5,000 or 6,000. So people can get, like 1,000 a piece if they get a certain amount of tax work off. So it's not like, again, it's a maxed number. The Hero Act acceptance, I don't think we know because people have to apply for it who are veterans. So there's no way of actually knowing what that number is. They get a discount's the wrong word, but they get some relief on their tax bill based on the passage of accepting that provision of the law.
Okay, so we're just gonna vote here on accepting the Heroes Act, accept that, recommending that we accept that.
Are you recommending?
I
The town
recommend
accept.
Well, I'm entertain a motion.
Well, it's state legislation, and that's, I think that, especially if we have veterans here, we should support them. I feel that I make a motion that we recommend to accept the Hero Act acceptance.
I Gail Weiss, second.
And the discussion I would have would be exactly the same as far as that. We have veterans, and who knows what's happening to some of the veterans that we're hearing
Yeah.
horror stories as far as doing it, and anything we can do to help out our veterans is
Yeah.
something we should definitely do. Any more discussion? Again, all those in favor signify by saying yes or no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes?
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
Okay. And again, as far as the amount, I think we can think about that too if we want to. If we want to recommend an amount, but I think it's a,
Recommend an amount of that.
Yeah.
You don't-
Percentages based on their tax bill, so it'll be calculated.
so who determines that? Would be the select board? I mean,
No, when you accept the statute will determine what people
Okay.
get based on, and it's in the statute.
Okay,
And I know she's reloading the overlay account
she
by
has
quite
that
a
in there.
bit, yeah,
he has it in there for
Yeah.
that, so there is
Yeah.
money in there
Yeah.
for that particular.
yeah,
So she's thinking about that in terms of.
Right.
She's already.
Beth already looked at what she knows, because there's already some things that seniors can do. She's already looked at everyone she's aware of who's eligible and looked at the implications. So she's considered the best that she can, because you can't know, and factored that into her request for the change for the additional overlay this year. So she's thought about that.
No, we have a couple others. We have
Your tax assistance bill, and we have the small tax bill single
that's right.
payment. And then we also have one more down at the bottom there. The senior tax assistance bill, that just allows seniors the opportunity, if they're financially struggling, to, voluntary work for the
Yeah.
town.
Yeah, and they,
And it's a
It's
work,
so-
it's a
Right.
work
Work
off
off their
program.
taxes, yes.
And I think that's, most communities have accepted that and make use of that, so I would make a motion that we recommend that, the senior tax assistance bill.
Accepted this, but it was years ago and no one was using it, and that needs to be reworked. It mentioned the minimum wage and the number at the time, 10 years, so it just needs to be revisited. The town had originally accepted this provision in the past. So this
This
is a
is on-
revisit.
Alex, or is it based on what their value is?
Right, there's a eligibility. And
The senior center works with the assessor's office, and they have an application, and they reach out to other departments in town and say, do you have work for someone who could do, and there's limitations on how many hours you can work and how much you can write off each year, and yes, then they have to apply for it, so it is structured.
Like I said, make a motion to, that we recommend the the senior tax assistance bill.
I go, I second.
Any discussions? All those in favor signify by saying yes, those opposed, no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes?
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
So unanimous. Small tax bill, single payment. Explain, please.
Oh, that one is just,
She's just asking there's a provision under the law that says if people's bills are below $25, they can pay it once a year instead of her having to send 2 bills.
Yeah.
That's something that we have to vote on or recommend?
Well,
It's money.
it's money.
It's a few, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I, Bernie Parada, make a motion that we recommend the small tax bill single payment.
I go, I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes, those opposed, no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes?
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
We have discussed the stipend because that's coming out of free cash, so we passed that.
Right.
And it reduced from $1,000 each to $500 each. Let's see. Is this the constable?
I'd
That's
like
not
it to a point, that's more of a political
Yeah, it
decision,
is.
not
So that's not a money
a
issue.
dollar issue, yeah. The only thing I see left is the town property tax title. Those are the properties that the town owns, and they're looking for the permission to try to potentially auction off those properties.
Yeah, to make it easier to unload, so to speak, or get them back.
Get
on
something
tax
for them
as
instead
far
of
as that.
letting them sit dormant.
And by giving it to the select board, you don't have to go back to town meetings or special town meetings in order to do that.
Yeah,
So it'd be up to the select board to make the decision how to dispose of these pieces of property.
and it's a money issue because, again, if we're taking dormant properties that are not providing any revenue to the community whatsoever, and we have the opportunity to get something for them, I think it's a win-win. So I make a motion, Bernie Parada, that we recommend the town property tax title.
I go, I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes or no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes?
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
I think we've done it, people.
Yep.
Now, moving on. Hopefully you've looked at the 2 minutes that I sent, and we have the third one here. We'll hold off on the third one, give you a chance to look at it. When we come back the next time, we'll vote on that. And so we have the approval minutes of February 3rd, 2025. Do I have a motion? Does anybody, are there any changes that need to be made?
I, Bernie Parada, make a motion that the Finance Committee accept the minutes as written for February 3rd, 2025.
Do I have a second?
I, Gail Weiss, second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying yes or no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Parada, yes.
The next was February.
Oh, wait a minute.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Linda McCarthy, yes?
You don't bypass her.
Did I
Robin
cut you off?
Vandermeer, yes.
Did I? You said yes, right?
No.
No, that whole,
Oh man, I tell you, people, it's been a long day. Moving on.
well, let them vote.
We did.
Moving on. They did. They voted.
They
It was
voted?
unanimous.
I want to make sure you know.
What are you missing?
All righty, all right.
Okay,
Moving on.
moving on.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask this part of the table. February 10th, 2025 minutes.
I, Robin Vandermeer, make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented for February 10th, 2025.
Lindsay McCarthy, second.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any discussion? All those in favor say yes, those opposed no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yay.
Bernie Parada, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes?
Robin Vandermeer, yes.
Perfect. Moving on. PDRS three-town agreement. Last Thursday, I went to what they thought is or possibly could be their last meeting, and the school committee voted to send the draft document to be put on the town meeting warrant. I was there, and so Bernardston was there. And my question was, we haven't got it back from the lawyer yet, as far as I know. So we haven't had any questions that we have submitted that we wanted to look at. The biggest one that we're looking at is we wanted to separate the budget from capital projects. And that seems to be a sticking point, so we're having our lawyers look at that. When those come back, I think there's a big discussion, and if we don't get those back in time, we have set up a meeting. Yes?
Expecting to get them back to me this week.
He did, okay. Because,
You will be getting them back to me this week.
so we're gonna be looking at, probably in the next couple of weeks, we're gonna get the three towns together again and look at what the lawyers have said and how that corresponds with the draft that they're sending over. The school committee wants to start having forum. And the problem I'm seeing right now, that I explained to them, is there might not be enough time to get out the message to the three towns, to the voters of the towns, the residents of the town, to satisfy everybody's questions. I put out there that if it weren't able to do it now, Northfield is not contemplating, but we are going to have a special town meeting or a fall town meeting, and we could take it up at that time. Bernardston was there, and basically said they have no problem doing the same thing.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is, once we get the information back, we're going to look at it. And again, everything looked pretty good. The sticking point was the capital projects, and we want those to be separate so we can look at the projects as they come about as far as we know. So if we hold our guns to that, I can foresee not recommending it to the at town meeting unless they can satisfy the people. And I don't think they'll have time to really do it. We've been working on this thing for over 8 years, and I don't really think we should be rushing into making a decision that quickly. I want to have the people of the town of Northfield, and as in other towns, to be able to look at it and see how it affects them and how they want to move forward. So I let it be known that we were going to look at, once we got the information from our lawyers, and our lawyers are looking at it. It's our town lawyers are looking at it. And then we'll discuss it probably with select board and other finance committees from the other 3 towns and see how it corresponds with what the school committees come up with. So they were really wanted to get it on this warrant this time, to the point that they were sending it over, and if we feel that we didn't get everything I wouldn't say wanted, but it wasn't explained the way it should be, or there were some gray areas, that we would then get up and recommend that we pass over it at town meeting. So that's how we would be looking at that if we weren't satisfied with the agreement. So.
The only thing I have to say about this is that looking over from Jeffrey Blake, who February 24th memo to the towns, 3 towns from KP Law, is that the towns have made suggestions on various areas of this agreement, and there's 3 pages of it where the towns have asked for their areas of concern and areas they would like to have revised, and it appears that the school committee rejected almost all of them. And that, to me, sends a message already that almost all the things that the towns wanted was rejected. So, and they wanted to keep the language as is. So obviously it seems to be a one-way street. That may change. We'll see what the update is from Mr. Blake and the law firm representing the town. But it seems that the first opening information we receive is that the school committee has not been, looks like wants to make any modifications to satisfy some of the towns, all 3 towns' concerns. And he was making the point too that it seems to be a school committee. They want to have it as a district agreement that they derived and they will be theirs. Yet he says this is a town's agreement between the 3 communities. So it looks like they're trying to, I hate to say the word, push aside the town's ability to have input into this agreement, and that they are the sole creators of it, and they're going to provide their viewpoint alone to eventually to the towns people of the 3 communities, without really taking into account any of our finance committee, select boards, and that. So I hope that they change their views, but I have a feeling that, again, if the towns don't get anything that they're seeking at all, then again, I agree with you, then this should be postponed and not presented before town meeting in May, at least in this town.
Again, once we get the documents back from the lawyers, we're going to sit down with their group of people, we're going to look at it, and we're going to, again, they have to realize that we pay the taxes. The people that pay the taxes should have more say into what's going on.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we are kind of the ones that get okay, how come you did this as far as doing that? I wouldn't say the buck stops here, but again, every time we go to town meeting, as far as doing, everybody's concerned with their budgets and with their taxes. And we're going to make sure that I wouldn't say have the upper hand, but people realize that the people pay the taxes, not the school committee.
Yes. Or the administration of the district.
Yeah. So the good thing is that 3 towns have gotten together, and it's a pretty good group of people that are looking at it, and they are not the kind of people that are going to back down. So. That we'll be setting up, once we get the information, I'm sure that Jane is going to be setting up a meeting to get together with the 3 towns.
Okay.
Okay. Well, actually, the tax title foreclosure information, we actually went on, didn't it? So, administrative report. Anything else, Andrea, that we need to go over?
I did want to give you the update on the tax title foreclosure. I sent you a lot of information on that. Not going to go into great detail, but I wanted to send that to you because I'm going to propose as the select board that they add an article to accept that Mass General Law, which is the local option statute that will provide an alternate procedure for disposing of funds. So as you can see, we've got an article on here that asks for for the town to turn the select board, properties over to the select board to dispose of them. After that Supreme Court, federal Supreme Court law, there was a big change in how tax title proceeds were held. They were all generally held by the local community. You can always research that article, that law online, but the point is it switched, and those properties, those tax title receipts were going to the state treasurer. So local communities were actually lost the benefit of, after having, recouped just what they had put into the process, actually had to turn the excess proceeds over to the office of the state treasurer. And trust me, there's years of notification and mailing process that goes into this before a court will even turn those properties over to the excuse me, to the treasurer. So the town invests a lot of money while the latent taxes build up. We're already paying attorney's fees and all this to actually ultimately gain title to those properties, plus interest and all that. But then sometimes you sell the property, say you've got $2,000 into it, and you sell the property for $2,500. Now they're saying that extra $500 that used to stay with the town has to be turned over to the office of the state treasurer. The town can only recoup their expenses. That was the result of that. But the state every state had to take this out. We now have a local option statute that is an alternative procedure for disposing of these funds. But first the town has to adopt it. And once you do that, then there's some additional notification procedures. Should we go through this, that there's some money left over? If there's no money left over, then it doesn't matter. But now, if there is money left over, they have to make another good faith effort at making some advertising and trying to find any potential person who should benefit from those proceeds. And then if that doesn't happen after a period of time, which can take up to another year, the town can keep those proceeds though. But the first step is accepting the local option statute. So that is what this is all about.
So is it similar
Like
to
how the treasurer treats stale dated checks or stale checks where they sort of advertise and then if nobody comes forward, it comes back to the town?
Right, there's a detailed procedure and it's in the law, if you read chapter 28.
Okay.
9A. It gives a very specific process that the treasurer will have to go through after an auction if there's excess proceeds above and beyond the recouped value of the expenditures of the town, what they have to go through in order to keep the balance of the proceeds. We don't generally see like, oh, property's worth $1,000 and we get $100,000. That's not the kind of money we're talking about, at least not in a smaller community. Maybe in a city they do, but it's enough that it might be worth it in many cases because it might be a few $1,000s. And the idea is we're trying to make some revenue if we have been sitting on these for many, many years, get our expenses back. If there's a little bit extra, we keep it, but then the property goes back on the tax roll. The town disposes of it because they've sold it. Now the taxes come back up, or maybe they've conserved it. And that's a very nice thing that we keep that property because now it's going to be conserved land that doesn't earn any money. Or even if the state wants it for recreation land, now we have a little bit of money that we have gotten above and beyond that helps offset the cost of that land, maybe getting a pilot, a lower amount instead of the full tax rate. So it's something I think that is worth the town doing. I am going to talk to Michelle about it. We have not had a chance to connect on it. And as soon as we do, but I can't foresee that she would not also be in agreement to do it. And obviously I'm going to bring it to the select board to explain the same thing to them. But because it involved tax title proceeds, I wanted to make sure you guys understood it. So I know I sent you a ton of reading material. No one's saying you have to be experts on it, but I wanted you to see the progression of how we got here and why that will be on the warrant, hopefully. So that's the tax title information.
so for the Mass General Law, that was
What's the Mass General Law we're adopting?
Chapter 20A, Section 9A.
section 9A? You said 20A?
Yes.
Section
20A,
9A.
Section 9A. And what I sent you has links to all the bulletins. There's
Okay.
part 1, part 2, part 3, as
Yeah.
they've updated it over the years. And I think I sent you a composite. I copied them onto a document and then just sent you that document. But that's that DLS tax title reform part 1, 2, 3 the link is in the KP Law update, but I also sent you a document where I had pulled it together for you, and that's those bulletins. Part Articles 1, 2, and 3 from DLS, Department of Locals, Division of Local Services, had some articles about this. And then there's bulletins from the state. So you can certainly become an expert on it if you want, but I wanted you to have an understanding of why that article hopefully will show up asking the town to adopt a local option statute on tax title foreclosure proceeds.
Anything else that we need to know?
Quickly, I think if you guys are done with your work tonight, I'm going to be working over the next 2 weeks to get everything finalized for the budget report, now that I have your numbers. And I usually after that, you generally meet with the select board, sort of a handoff of your recommendations. You could do that at the March 18th meeting, or you could choose the first meeting in April. I think you guys should have a discussion about when you want to do that.
Or
And
rather,
then,
have the 17th, we would meet on the 18th when the select board is meeting? Okay. So a joint meeting?
just
then?
sort of do your, here's the budget we're recommending, and you could talk about whatever issues, the articles that, you know, you've been discussing. So you might want to meet first on the 17th and talk about that. You might just say, we're good, we're going to go in there and so I will have, you know, essentially, you know, this document will be updated with all of everything, and you will have, you know, you'll have this spreadsheet plus the cover, the front page, which will now be filled in with all of your recommendations. So I'll have that for you. Again, you don't have to do it as early as the 18th. You could wait you know, come to their meeting. I'd have to look at their calendar, but April will be 2 weeks after the 18th.
The only thing I can think of going forward as far as that would be to come up with the percentage we were talking about for the Airbnbs, and also the Hero, if we want to discuss that again. What's that?
You could wait till their April 1st meeting, and then it gives you guys some more time to,
The other thing would be the meeting for the 3 towns and what has transpired with that. What would we recommend if we don't have the information? We either would recommend it, not recommend it, or pass over it, I think is what, at that particular time. But we want to get more information on that. So that being said,
I'll pencil it for the first, and then Dan can tell me
you
what.
guys decide to do.
well, I mean, we'll just have a placeholder for the 17th, just to go over those, and if we needed to meet the 18th, or we could actually discuss it at the 18th before with the select board on that particular,
Okay, you wanna do the 18th then?
yeah, let's do the 18th, because we could discuss some things, and why do it 2 nights in a row? So that's what we would do, we would look at, and again, that's what we're thinking. We kind of jumped ahead to our next meeting, but, so we're looking at,
It looks it's gonna be a while for that.
Joint meeting, you could push it to the 1st if you so choose. So you could, if you decide, you don't have to make this decision tonight. We could
the
discuss
thing
it.
that we're thinking about is the 27th, I think, of March is when the school committee is set forth to hear whether we're going to accept or think about passing over. Those are the 2 things we would be discussing beforehand. We'd want to have that would be with the 3 towns, once we've gotten our lawyers' recommendations. So the school committee has set that day, and we will be getting in touch with them to see if they need it. If we accepted it, they wouldn't need it. If we're gonna pass over it, they'd want to know about it. So,
Okay.
I do know that there would be a meeting, it was either the 27th or the week before, the 20th. It's either gonna be the 20th or the 27th. We're gonna get back to them.
I just found all the room taxes, most of them are charging the full 6%.
Full
Some are,
6%.
yeah, or some are doing 4. Some are doing 4.
Again, we'll think about
Yeah.
that. We'll discuss it
Okay.
at a later date.
Yeah.
And you'll have some information for us.
Right, and I'll,
Yeah, look at what, like I said, what the average are for surrounding communities or what you
Yeah,
have found.
I'll go in
I think
there
that would
and-
be a reasonable,
Yeah.
view for us to look at.
and then see approximately how many bed and breakfast VRBOs are in Northfield.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll check into that, but again, let's move on.
Okay.
Well, the last thing I just want to say is when
We're talking about putting together your discussion for for a town meeting. I think one of the things that's really key to point out is that literally a third of probably the increase, because if you look at the difference of what's coming on, a third of that increase right now, and these numbers may change a little because I have to make a couple of the changes you did, is the difference between 25 and 26 is about $700,000, 720. You have to note that about, a third of that is actually overlay and the overlay interest. So it's not like you're actually putting all of this money onto the town. You actually have to do the overlay and the interest for that, for the legal case. And that's actually pretty much a third of the increase in the budget for next year, in the taxable budget assessment. So it's kind of important to point that out because that's something you really have very little control over, that third of the budget, in order to make your overlay, because that's $150,000 increase over last year's overlay. And it's $89,000 that we have to put in for interest. So 250, 300,000, 150 plus the 80, that's $250,000 of the $700,000 increase literally is that change, and that's not. But the other thing on the other flip side is you got the tax payment up front that the town has had, which has actually kept your rate from jumping dramatically. It's just now you have to split the difference with the appellate tax court decision and essentially give that money back, plus the interest. So it's how the nature of the game. But I did want people to understand that you're not really spending all of a sudden $720,000 more dollars. A whole third of that is obligated for other reasons other than expenditure by the town on any project or any salary or anything. So just kind of an interesting thing to keep in the back of your mind. So that's it.
Minutes attended, I kind of explained the one I attended. Has anybody else attended any other meetings? No. We do have some people in our audience if they want to come forward. You have 3 minutes if you want to. We have 2 select board members here. Luckily, we didn't have one more, then you'd have to have a quorum, so you'd have to chime in. I was looking over my shoulder here, making sure
I
everybody
do
knew.
have a question.
Sure, identify, please.
Oh, Ejak, 175 Main Street. The question that I have is, who, was it you and, sorry. Was it you and Bernie,
What?
the chair of the select board? How did we move from taking what we got from the school with the district agreement draft from them to our town council? What was the who made that decision? Because some of their meetings have been on select board nights and FERCog nights, so it's, I'm just
Well-
curious.
Well, the 3 towns were getting together, and I think Jane was the one that,
I can kind of give you a little bit of an answer on that.
It must have been at the meeting, I'm not sure the last meeting they had, but at the last meeting they had, and I attended several and many of you attended several, where they went through section by section and came up with a list of things that the joint 3-town select board and finance committee meetings had pointed out they weren't happy with. That was Jane from Bernardston was tasked with putting together a memo with the very specific questions that those meetings engendered. And then it was discussed at a meeting I was not present at, but there was some discussion starting about going through one town's attorney. So this wasn't, every town didn't have to pay for this review, and everyone agreed and they would chip in. So the other towns will assist paying for this review. And it was chosen to go through the Northfield attorney. So I did receive a memo written by Jane with several attached documents, including, the drafts from Pioneer and various other pieces of paper that had gone prior, different things. And all of that was collected and sent
Okay.
forward to the town attorney.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just looking at this, having had a couple of weeks off, coming in a little fresh,
Okay.
right? I'm just thinking in terms of if there are elements in an agreement that was put together by the school committee versus the three towns, and there's elements in there that are not acceptable to the three towns, then to me, we're still in negotiation, and we should be having this discussion jointly with the select board for Northfield sooner rather than later. So I was happy to hear that you wanted to do a March meeting, because we want to make sure, with the long list of things that are coming on the town meeting, I just want to make sure that you guys and the select board have enough time if we have to go back over something, right?
I don't think there's gonna be enough time to get it on this annual town meeting anyway. It's just getting right up to the time, and
Yeah.
and I.
I'm
we're
sorry, I
gonna-
wasn't clear, Dan. I think we just need to have a discussion that indicates where we are, not that we want to put it on if we don't want to put it on the town meeting, then we should all say that, not just in the three town, but in the joint select board and finance committee meeting for Northfield. Then we should say that so that everybody's aware of that and stops pushing to get this onto the town meeting. The other part that I would add is
We don't have that on.
the other part that I would add is the sixth town is due with theirs, and just strictly from a schedule standpoint, whether you agree with one or the other or neither or all of them is immaterial. It's that they need to be presented at approximately the same time to the town so people can make a decision and hear all the different angles. There's no way in heck that's going to happen this spring.
There was one question I had that we were trying to get an answer to, and that is if the school committee sent it over and requested it to be put on the warrant, do they supersede what the select board can put on? Do they have?
I have the answer.
You do? Okay.
I asked the lawyer, I have a legal opinion. If the school sends you the document, you must include it at town meeting.
There you
No,
go.
that wasn't.
So I think,
That was not the answer we had at the beginning of the process, so I'm disappointed to hear that, but we can take that up with the
So, no,
select
no,
board.
well, so if that's, I don't like being pushed against the wall here, so if.
Oh, I'm
they-
not trying to
No, 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 no,
push.
no,
You mean-
no. I'm talking about the school committee.
Yeah, I'm not
And if
happy.
to me, it's gonna be passed over, if anything else, because I don't feel we have enough information to make a decision. And I think one of the things that worries me is just what you said here, is they're pushing it to get it quickly, but I want to hear what the other six town things have to say too. So we want to compare that, see which is the best outcome for our town and our students. And I think that we're not there yet. So I don't even think we're close. So I agree with you 100%, but the thing is, by them sending it to us, you don't have control over it. We don't have control over it. It has to go on the annual town meeting. However,
I
it can be
think that's why the group of three towns is working together.
this information back from the lawyer, because you could hopefully have a meeting with them to try and reconcile this. If it can't be reconciled, you can put both versions on the town meeting warrant.
let it be known, the meeting that we had last week, that if we weren't satisfied with it, even if they put it over, we're going to pass over it. And we could then revisit it in the fall town meeting if we felt it was necessary. So I put them on notice. I cut off a few people that wanted to speak, but I basically told them no. I mean, we're going to make sure this is the right thing for our town.
I think it's timing, to your point.
It is. It is.
People don't realize the sixth town, people don't realize or forget, the sixth town was voted on by each town as well. It was on I forget which year it was on, but it was actually a town meeting vote. So to me, to do due diligence, you have to respond to that vote and direction to have us look at 6-town and to look at the 3-town, and then tell people what the financial impact is going to be in one fell swoop, and do it in the fall when people can focus on one thing instead of,
You're
25
talking to people
things.
that agree
Yeah, I
100%.
know.
So, and again, it's,
No, there's
But we've
clear,
been saying that and saying that, that's why it's so frustrating.
no, there's a clear need that I strongly support Dan, that this should not, again, they may push it before the town meeting, but I don't think it's appropriate that it come before this annual town meeting, again, because of two reasons. One, there's not enough time. Two, the fact is you still have the 6th town out there. I think it should be something at the earliest in the fall where you have both items come before the townspeople so they can decide, is a 6th town, personally, I would take the 6th town first to see, is this viable? Because why are you writing a district agreement which may be already, eventually invalidated because you're going with a 6th town? It doesn't make sense. And the thing is that because there's going to be so much discussion and there's so much information out there, to have it before annual town meeting where we already have a lot of warrant articles, I don't think is advisable. I think this can wait till the fall, and I think that would give time for informational sessions and for the people in all the 3 communities to decide what they want to do and that. But again, we're not driving this situation, unfortunately. It's the district that's driving this situation. And again, I don't know what their agenda is or but again, I am not in favor of having them, have this article. But again, if they do, bring it forward, either 2 things: we reject it or pass it over at the least, or reject it out openly.
right now we're coming up to the line drawn in the sand.
Yeah.
And we're not going to go over that, or, we're gonna make our presence known, because,
Yeah.
again, we are the taxpayers, we are the people paying the bills, we are the people that our houses are taxed for, and we want to make sure that we have the best possible outcome for the town and for the students. And I think all 3 towns right now are in agreement with that.
Yeah.
And we are looking at the 6th town, and again, I agree, we have to see all options. So, that being said, as soon as we get any information, we're gonna get it out to all of the finance committees in all of the towns, and all of the select board in all of the towns. And then we will come together and we will have that line drawn in the sand. Moving on, correspondence. Now, Andreas sent out some correspondence. I sent out some more. Basically, what I sent out was what we discussed, the minutes. So you've already received all of that. Anything else that comes through my desk, I will make sure it gets out to you. Nothing is anticipated in the last 48 hours that I know of. Does anybody have anything that they want to bring up at this particular time?
So I just want to make sure we're looking at a joint meeting schedule for Tuesday, March 18th,
That
correct?
is, yes.
And what time about, what's the select board, 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay, all righty. That's all I have to ask.
Okay, that's our next item. As far as doing, our next meeting is the 18th at 6 o'clock. It's a joint meeting with the select board. That brings us to our final option of the night.
I, Bernie Prado, make a motion that the Finance Committee on March 3rd, 2025 adjourn at 7:37.
That's almost like last week.
I go, I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes or no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Bernie Prado, yes.
Lindsay McCarthy, yes?
Robin Benjamin, yes.
So moved. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. I'll keep you informed as I possibly can on these upcoming minutes.